Hello everyone, my name is Lachelle Weemy and I am so passionate about helping you step boldly into life that you're meant to live. And you guys, I wanted to just hop on this morning and talk to you a little bit about what's been going on in our world right now with the racial inequality. And I just have to just preface this with the fact that there's so many things in my mind that kept going through, like, what does a white girl from Minnesota have to say about this, and who the heck cares? And then a lot of fears come into me, like, what if I say something that's accidentally gonna offend someone? Because if anybody knows me, like, that is never my intention. I actually avoid conflict like it's the plague. So for me to go on here has to just be courage. And I teach my kids that courage and bravery is not the absence of fear, but it is moving forward in spite of it. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about what's been on my heart when it comes to what's been going on in our world with George Floyd and the racial inequality. And, I first just wanted to say that I was ignorant, I guess, to what's going on, because in my mind, like, I have so many African American friends. I have so many friends that are of Hispanic descent or Indian or any other ethnicity, and I don't see them as being any different. I see them as people. I see them as their beautiful souls. I see them as children of God. I see them as who they are as people. And so just because I don't see people differently doesn't mean that other people don't. And I'm recognizing that by me not saying anything, it's as bad as being disrespectful to begin with. And so I had to take my platform to remind all of us that just because it doesn't affect us personally doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And, I can say that, I have different experiences in my life where I felt less than, and it feels awful. And I don't treat people differently because I've felt that way before, but again, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So I've been thinking about this, I've been praying about this. It's like, how can I understand better? And first of all, it just has to come with conversation. And so I say that very lovingly in the fact that I don't have conversations sometimes because I don't want to accidentally offend someone. And so let's just take this opportunity to have conversations with each other, and then just make sure that we're setting our judgments aside so that we can learn from one another. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of compare this to today is drug addiction and anesthesia providers. So as a nurse anesthetist and as former faculty for our nurse anesthesia program, that was one of the platforms that I really felt very strongly about. And it was something that I did research on, and it was something that I was very passionate about educating people. So here's the deal. As anesthesia providers, we have the same addiction rates as anyone else in the country. So it's about 10% of Americans are addicted to something, and that might be alcohol, it might be, drugs. But anesthesia addiction is a very high priority in our education because it is more deadly. And so the fact of the matter is that even though the rate is the same as anyone else in the world or in the United States, the chance of dying from the addiction as an anesthesia provider is so much greater because the drug choices that we have access to are that much more deadly, okay? So the incidence is the same, but the chance of death is higher. Now, how can this relate to what's going on right now? One of the things that I'm recognizing, you guys, is that while I see inequalities all around me, I have to be able to acknowledge the fact that I did not realize how much more deadly the inequalities can be for my African American friends. How, as a man, you have to be careful of what you're doing and where you're going, and be prepared on a higher level than most of us are aware of or have to deal with. And so while there's inequalities everywhere, the risk of death is higher. And the thing that we can learn from my anesthesia experience with addiction is that every single year, our nurse anesthesia students are given education on this topic. And I hope that it's doing some good, right? And I would hope to say, and again, this is just a white girl from Minnesota saying this, but I hope to think that we've come far from the 1960s to where we are now with racial inequality. But the fact of the matter is that it still exists. And we've come far with anesthesia drug addiction, but it still exists. And there's a reason that we choose to educate our students every single year on the risks, because it is deadly. And I think that this has to be an awakening for us to open our eyes to recognize that while it might be better than it used to be, it still exists. And unless we continue to have conversations about it and educate people on it and do what we can to make it less deadly, those conversations still have to happen. And so while it might be chaos right now, while it might seem really, really sad what's going on, I think that good has to come out of this, right? My God makes all things work out to the good who believe in him. And I have to believe that amidst all of this, some good can come out of it, which is the awareness of how deadly it can be for some of our friends, our colleagues, to live in this world right now. And we have to have conversations around it in order for us to keep moving it forward. We can't pretend it doesn't exist. Just like I don't think that I have a risk myself to become addicted to drugs and anesthesia, but I have to know that it exists, and I have to be willing to talk about it because it does exist and it can be deadly. And so I want to just open this conversation up to people to recognize that even if you don't see the world that way, other people might, and people that we care about are affected in ways that we don't understand. But we have to be willing to have the conversations in order to raise the awareness to keep moving it forward. And I want to just ask all of us to continue to have an open, loving heart, an open, loving mind of curiosity, to learn from each other, to learn the perspectives that can keep us moving forward. Because we might not understand it, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean that we can't do our part to make it better. Okay, you guys, I hope that I didn't just ramble. I hope that this helps somebody, and just know that my heart is going out to every single person who's affected by this. And if you're not affected by this, have the compassion for those who are. All right, bye everybody.